In 2012, a 17-year-old girl walked into a forest in rural Canada. 9 days later, she walked back out, barefoot, covered in mud, with no memory of where she'd been. The police called it a miracle. Her mother called it a nightmare that never ended. Because 7 years later, the same girl vanished again. And this time, no one found her walking home. Some disappearances don't get solved. They just wait. Maple Hollow, Ontario. Population 5,000. A 2-lane highway, a shuttered lumber mill, a high school with a gravel lot that floods every spring. The kind of town where everyone knows your name, and nothing ever happens until March 4th, 2012. Rachel Burns was 17, honor roll student, track captain, the girl most likely to leave town and never look back. That afternoon, cameras caught her leaving school at 3:17 p.m. Hood up, earbuds in, she crossed the lot, cut behind the football field, and stepped onto the trail locals use to shave 2 minutes off the walk home. At 3:22, she passed the rusted chain-link gate. At 3:26, the last witness saw her. A sophomore said she was moving fast, eyes down, like she was late. After that, the trail bends behind black spruce, and the camera can't see. By 8 p.m., her mother called the police. By midnight, the trail blazed with flashlights and orange tape. Volunteers beat the brush with sticks. Dogs crisscrossed the ditches. They found nothing, not a footprint, not a scrap of clothing, not a single trace. 9 days later, at 6:47 a.m., the front door opened. Rachel stood in the hallway, barefoot, mud caked up to her knees, eyes unfocused, as if waking inside a dream. She said she'd been walking in the woods, and she didn't remember anything else. No marks of restraint, no head injury. Her vitals were normal. The doctors used a phrase that sounds like an answer but isn't: dissociative fugue. But her mother noticed something the doctors did not. Rachel's skin, her hair, her clothes smelled like wet earth and melted candle wax. In March, in a forest with no cabins. 2 days later, an officer returned Rachel's earbuds. They'd been stuck in the lining of her jacket. The right bud was packed with fine grit, the kind you get when wax cools and crumbles. The file went back on a shelf. The town exhaled. People said it was stress, a break, a miracle. And mostly they stopped talking. But the woods don't forget what silence tries to bury. Spring turned, then another. Rachel graduated. Toronto felt like a different planet. Streetcars, neon, people awake at all hours. She changed her hair, changed her major twice, worked 2 jobs, learned to sleep with the blinds open because blackout curtains made her feel like something was standing beside the bed. Therapists called it recovery. She called it moving on. Then came August 2019. Rachel came home for her mother's birthday. On August 21st, she borrowed the car to meet friends at the lake. She never arrived. The car was found 2 days later, nosed into the ditch beside the same trailhead where she'd disappeared in 2012. Keys in the ignition, phone in the glove box, turned off. On the passenger floor, a folded towel and a grocery bag with paper plates. The kind of details you only notice when something else is missing. This time the search was bigger. Drones skimmed the canopy. Heat cameras painted the world in false color. RCMP consultants drew circles on a map and called them probabilities. Volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder, whispering her name, as if a quiet voice would keep the woods from answering back. Again, nothing. 5 days in, a hunter radioed from the North Ridge. He'd found a cabin, half collapsed, swallowed by brush. Inside, candle stubs, empty water bottles, a wool blanket folded on a broken chair, and carved into the wall in rough letters, Rachel. Beneath it, partially scratched out, 2 letters remained, J.A. The air inside the cabin held a smell people don't forget. Cold wood, old smoke, and something sweet, like wax. A name began to move through town, not in statements but in whispers. At first it was just rumor, a name traded over coffee and church steps. Jacob Allen, 38, former park ranger, lived off-grid near the ridge until 2013. Vanished the same year Rachel first disappeared. Detectives found his sister in Montreal. She said Jacob sent postcards from Maple Hollow, pencil sketches of birds, lists of cloud shapes, margins filled with notes about the hum. He'd written, "Nights are quieter if I talk back to it," and another line, "Sometimes I think the forest wants company." 2 weeks after the cabin was found, cadaver dogs caught scent near a drainage ditch 2 miles away. A boot sole, a strip of torn fabric, bone fragments too degraded for immediate DNA match. A rusted tin cup lay half buried in the muck. Inside it, a pebble, a bent fishhook, and the charred end of a candle. When they told Rachel's mother, she went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "She told me once. Sometimes at night the woods hum, and when they do, she dreams of a man calling her name." The detective had no box for that kind of truth. What do you do with a sentence like that? You put it in a report. You file it. You hope you never have to read it again. No one ever proved Jacob built the cabin, but no one proved he didn't. At night, people heard the power lines sing. They always had. Only now the sound felt like a thought you almost remember. And once you notice it, you can't stop listening. Rachel's old phone records were a mess. Deleted photos, corrupted thumbnails, noise, noise, noise. But buried under the digital rubble, they found a video dated March 11th, 2012, the morning she came home. 14 seconds, almost black. A narrow beam of light sweeping across trunks and branches. Breathing, slow, close to the mic. Then Rachel's voice, barely a whisper.
"If I get out, I'll come back for you."
A second voice answered. Male, low, distant. Analysts slowed the clip, filtered the wind, isolated the consonants. The voice patterns didn't match. The rhythm was wrong. Some experts said the noise made it impossible to tell. Others said something worse. The sound wasn't made by anything with lungs. Then a click, a blackout, and in the silence, that faint mechanical hum you hear when your ear is against a wall and something on the other side is running. Officially, the report called it an unverified digital artifact. Unofficially, the lead detective asked for a transfer, but the clip raised a question no one could safely ask. If Rachel promised to come back for someone, who was she leaving behind? Some promises echo longer than their makers. Detectives interviewed teachers again, not the formal day one questions, the stranger ones that come later. Mrs. Keene, biology, remembered something she'd forgotten to forget. A week before Rachel first vanished, she'd stayed after class. The lesson had been tree growth, cambium, xylem, rings that hold time. Rachel asked, "Can trees record sound?" Mrs. Keene laughed and said it was a metaphor. Rachel ran her finger over a dark, tight growth band from the year a windstorm toppled the older pines. She said, "What if it's not?" Later, an officer flipped through one of Rachel's old notebooks. On a page about photosynthesis, she'd written, "Memory is just repetition with intention." Under it, "If I get out, I'll come back for you." The line was crossed out, not erased. At night, the hum returned. Maybe a transformer, maybe the highway, maybe nothing at all. And when the wind shifted through the pines, people said they caught the faintest trace of something sweet, something that shouldn't be outside. In 2021, a hiker posted a video from the trail, just a man testing a headlamp. 62 seconds. Boots, brush, wind, the little ticks of frost hitting nylon. Near the end, between gusts, a voice slipped through, "Don't look for me again." 3 independent labs analyzed it. All said the match to Rachel's 2012 clip fell within a range called consistent. But Rachel's phone had been off since 2019. The voice came from nowhere a phone could be. The town closed the trail due to erosion hazards. A fence went up. A sign flapped in the wind. Some photos show nothing but fog. One shows a shape behind the fence the eye wants to turn into a person. 2 winters ago, a storm took the cabin's roof. The wall that held the carved names went with it. The forest doesn't keep evidence. It keeps stories. To this day, Rachel Burns remains missing. Her mother keeps the porch light on, not because light brings anyone home, but because darkness shouldn't get to have everything. If you walk past the fence after dark, the town says you'll hear 2 voices in the trees, one calling for help and another whispering back, "You promised." And sometimes, when the wind shifts through the pines, people swear they smell something sweet, something that shouldn't be outside. Some disappearances don't get solved. They just repeat until you start to think repeating is the point.